Gold's money was not lost. It was stolen. Plain as daylight.
But we will not die on the altar of expediency in order to give others a soundbite. We must be thorough. We answer to the public interest. And this is a complex matter. In fact,
Bless up, ABR family and viewers. Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, Isabella Rose. And in this one, back on the SSL saga, we see the Director of Public Prosecution responding to talks from former Finance Minister Nigel Clark of him being disappointed as to how the SSL saga has played out, as well as former Prime Minister PJ Patterson speaks on the SSL matter. Stay tuned for the details at hand. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Notification shout out goes to Rumba Time News. Big up yourself, Rumba Time News. Thanks for the continued support from each and every one. So in this first segment, you will hear an interview between the Director of Public Prosecution and Dion Jackson Miller, in which Dion was asking her response to what Nigel Clark had stated of him being disappointed after he basically put his life on the line or put everything at risk just to get the KROLL forensic to investigate the whole SSL fraud of $30 million US. And in her response, she went as far as to letting us know that she is still outstanding some critical information from the Financial Investigative Divisions, and that based on experience of a Deputy Director of Public Prosecution, that this matter could take even up to 5 years. We know, however, that it has been 2 years long, and should we take it that this can take up to 5 years or even beyond 5 years for them to come to more charges for other persons, because we know that Panton alone could not pull off such an act. And so me about for me gonna listen to it, and then you'll hear from former Prime Minister PJ Patterson letting us know, as we all have been saying, that Usain Bolt's money was not missing, but it is indeed stolen.
Let me move on to something else, because last year in an interview with Nigel Clark, former finance minister, on his last day as finance minister, I'd asked him about the SSL case, and this is what he said. Let's listen in. I spoke to former finance minister Dr. Nigel Clark in October 2024, his very last day in office as finance minister, and I asked him about the SSL thing because, finance is his ministry and so on. And this is what he said. He said, what I've not been satisfied with is the pace at which that has moved. He said, we have investigators, police, a DPP, courts. All of those are independent authorities. I can't instruct. He said this is not a criticism, but he said he had one opportunity to pour out his heart. He said, I feel hurt and disappointed that I put that effort in. I've taken major risk in getting forensic auditors from the United Kingdom to do a massive investigation. And he said that file had been put to the DPP from late 2023. Nothing has come of it, and people are looking and wondering what's going on. He said, I've done my part.
For breach of any of the environmental legislation will be taken over and prosecuted by a senior officer of the office of the DPP.
Usain Bolt tweets some of his impatience with you in terms of what's happening there.
Well, first of all, having listened to what Mr. Clark had to say, it's just so unfortunate that he didn't avail himself of speaking to us directly to find out exactly our side of it. Because I don't know who he got his information from, but we are aware as a DPP's office that perhaps due to an excess of enthusiasm or youthful exuberance, some of the investigators perhaps may have had some element of amnesia when they have been advising members of the public or even Mr. Clark as to what has been happening. In terms of the update that I received, there was a letter dated October 23rd, 2024 from my office. And remember, our SSL task force is headed by a deputy DPP who is in charge of our mutual legal assistance and financial crimes unit. You have 4 lawyers. It is an extremely voluminous exercise, and we sent a letter indicating all of the matters that were outstanding, that were required. It seems, and I'm going to say it quite clearly here, that there are some investigators or some persons there who thought that by waving a magic wand and just speaking it into being, they thought they had enough so that they could go before the court. But since we are the ones who are saddled with prosecuting cases of this nature to the requisite standing of beyond a reasonable doubt, and we are not into this thing to get a sound bite, we have to make sure, especially in a complex matter like this, that we have adequate information. And what I was informed now, I'm looking at it, by letter dated December 30th from the FID, they answered the 12 points that we had sent to them about an update on the status of the 12 outstanding materials. Now, there is one that is absolutely critical. And what I've been made to understand, because I decided to drill down so that I had been in the best position to respond to you, that we have been made aware that the investigators have had to go through hundreds of boxes of material from SSL to find the particular documentation. That is critical. We at the Office of the DPP have already prepared, well, my team has prepared a draft legal opinion with some 40 pages waiting for my sign-off. But they know how detailed and thorough I am. And they are also detailed and thorough. So there is a yawning gap, legally speaking, in the opinion that can only be covered by getting the critical documentation and report from the FID. And that is what we are waiting on. When they get that, then they will be able to properly complete the legal opinion of some 40 odd pages. They give it to me, and I can undertake that, having spent 40 years as a prosecutor and 16 as DPP, it's a question of case consultation. The 5 of us sit down, we go through everything, and hopefully overnight, by the next day, then a ruling will be had. But we will not die on the altar of expediency in order to give others a soundbite. We must be thorough. We answer to the public interest. And this is a complex matter. In fact, my deputy told me, and I said she's in charge of mutual legal assistance and financial crimes for the office, that they went ahead and did some research in the USA in terms of matters of a similar nature. And they found that the average in some areas is 5 years from the time the offense is committed to the time that it goes to court, given the level of thoroughness that is required.
Now we come to SSL. And I ask, how could any government in their right senses possibly think that the failure of a licensed institution to repay 200 investors whose money has vanished could become an issue of national secrecy? It is a matter which is of concern to the entire nation and our standing in the world. And for them to have thought so borders on lunacy when one of the members is a living legend. I want to be very clear. Nobody is singling out Bolt for any special treatment. He hasn't asked for it, and I don't think he expects it. But the widowers, the pensioners, and all the persons who were robbed have a compelling interest in finding out how the money goes. Usain Bolt is a loyal Jamaican who is an international icon. He's not going to use the same image or rhetoric as his parishioner, Mr. Thompson from North Trelawney also. But the fact is, even if he kept quiet about it, there is an interest because you have some publications that track the income and the worth of athletic stars and of musical stars. So they have been following the story. And when they see a sudden dip in their account, they're going to take notice of it. So it is just sheer stupidity for them to pretend that this thing can happen and the opposition is not going to say anything about it. We're not creating any partisan issue out of it. This is a national issue. By my own profession and disposition, I don't like to engage in rumor, speculation, or gossip. I know there is a legal presumption of innocence to which all accused are entitled. If anyone who thinks that whatever Miss Panton is accused of doing, if in fact she did anything could be done by her alone, must still believe that the world is flat. Justice demands that the thief or thieves be found and receivers of the stolen money, if any, end up where those who have been convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction go, where criminals belong. Bolt's money was not lost, it was stolen. Plain as daylight. We must not prejudice the right to a fair trial of any accused. But there are issues which, according to our constitutional entitlement of free speech, demand ventilation and not a muzzle. In 1998, Mr. Eric Thompson would have had no legal recourse for a failure of his bank. But now there's the FSC. Mr. Bolt has very competent lawyers. I do not intend or need to offer them legal advice. But what I would say is, if they have not already done so, the FSC had better pad up a top-class legal team. Because the question is going to arise, has there been a breach of its statutory duties? And they certainly expose themselves to civil action in our courts by any of the or all of the 200 investors whose money has disappeared.
Go ahead and share your thoughts in the comment section, ABR family. As well as we're about to hear from the mystic sensation with some shocking revelation as to the SSL matter ADMAT and the whole intertwining and the whole heap of web that's aligned to this whole SSL saga. So right after I want to watch this, look out for Mystic Sensation coming at 8:45 p.m. tonight. Don't miss it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel on the road to 30K and beyond. Help me to get there. Share out that one and get this to at least 10,000 likes. Stay tuned for more videos. Stay tuned for more updates. Big up on yourself.